Hello, Year 5 and 6. Welcome to yet another week of home learning. It is Monday, the 18th of May today, and the sun is shining. So, our Walt for today is to compare books based on their similarities. Now, across the course of the year, you've read lots of different books in your classroom. I know you've read loads and loads of books at home as well, both ones that you've been borrowing from school, ones that you've taken from the bookcases, ones that you've had at home already. So what I'd like you to use this week really to look at and to think about is what makes these books similar? Because only by thinking about books and thinking about ways in which authors make choices, use language, use these authorial techniques, can we start to really improve as writers ourselves. You only learn these things by seeing it done well, and who better to look at than authors. So today's task is to think about what makes books of your choice, some of your favorite books, what makes them similar, as well as what makes them different. So I've started with 3 books. 2 of them are books that we have read in school. If you have been in my class, certainly we've read those. Some of you have read some of them and not the others. So everybody, I think, has pretty much read Jaguar Trials. The second book, some of you have read. If you're Year 5, you'll have definitely read it. Some of you in Year 6 haven't. And then the third book, we haven't read it in school, but I think it's, as you'll see, it's one that most people are familiar with. So in order to compare these books and compare their similarities, we must first think back to what these books contained. And the best way to do that, and the way I'd like you to do this, is as you choose your 3 books, and you are going to do 3, as you choose your 3 books, you need to write a short summary of what happened in those books. So for Jaguar Trials, my summary reads, Ben and his father have travelled to the Amazon rainforest to try and discover the lost city of El Dorado. Due to a suspicious boat accident, Ben and his friend Raphael are left stranded and have to start an amazing journey to reunite with Ben's father. Along the way, Ben has to complete a series of dangerous trials to fulfill a prophecy and save the village tribes of the Amazon. As you can see, it's not long. It should be a paragraph at most. You can make it even shorter if you want. It's just to remind you and jog your memory of what happens in that book. What you then need to do is you need to think of what the key features of that book are. So for example, the key features I think for Jaguar Trials are that it contains a child protagonist who is supported by a group of friends. So protagonist, remember, that means main character, the character whose main perspective we are getting for the story. We also have, in the case of the Jaguar Trials, one parent has already died before the story even begins, and then we have the danger and the concern that the other parent, his father, might have died right at the very beginning in the boat crash. So the main body of the book, Ben is essentially an orphan. He's not officially an orphan because we don't know if his dad has died, but he is essentially an orphan. He doesn't have his parents around. The antagonist, now that's the opposite of a protagonist. The antagonist is sort of the main bad guy, I suppose, the main person trying to stop the protagonist. So the antagonist is an adult, and he tries to use the protagonist to begin with. He tries to actually use Ben to get his wish, or to get what he wants. The protagonist is the subject of a prophecy. Now that's important, kind of builds the whole story around this idea that Ben is the one who is going to complete the Jaguar Trials. He is the chosen one who will complete the Jaguar Trials and put the unquiet spirits to rest. And then finally, the protagonist has to complete a series of challenges that help them to grow as a character. They're the key features. Now, I've chosen them because they're ones that are shared with my 2 other books. So I've tried to pick out the key features that are features in common with the other 2 books. Speaking of the other 2 books, the second of my 3 books, Spymaster First Blood, we read that in the spring term with the Year 5s. Again, start by writing out your summary. So the summary in this case is Jack Briers, an orphan brought up in an abbey on the outskirts of Tudor London. He is sent away from the abbey for being troublesome, and he travels to the court of Henry VIII to see Thomas Cromwell. He is taken on first as a scribe, but soon becomes part of Cromwell's spy organisation, uncovering a plot to kill the king. And Jack continues to get deeper and deeper into danger and has to use his wits in order to survive. Key features again, we get that child protagonist. Straight away, we're starting to see that that is a feature in common. That is something that is similar. And that was our Walt, remember, to find similarities in different texts. An orphan from before the story. So Jack is a full orphan. Both his parents have passed away. He is being raised by the monks at the Abbey, by Father Busbrig and Father Matthew. The second one, the antagonist, this time is a group of adults, and they underestimate the protagonist for being a child, something we see in the other books. That happens in the Jaguar Trials. The protagonist is underestimated because he is a child. The protagonist, though, in The Spy Master is trusted by a wise older character who helps to teach him. We don't have that in the Jaguar Trials. There isn't a wiser older person trying to help in the Jaguar Trials, or at least not for very long, because the person who might have been that turns out to be the antagonist. And then finally, the protagonist has to overcome that series of obstacles and challenges again that helps them grow as a character. We see that in the Jaguar Trials, this overcoming of lots of challenges and obstacles in their way. So already we're getting lots of parallels, lots of similarities between the two types of text. And my third book, I did say we hadn't read it in school, but a lot of you will be familiar with it, is the first of the Harry Potters, but kind of Harry Potter as a series overall. Longer summary here. I got a bit into this one because it took me back to being a kid when I first read this when I was 10, actually. So a 10-year-old orphan named Harry is being brought up by his spiteful aunt and uncle, both of whom seem to hate him. On his 11th birthday, a strange letter is delivered to him by a half-giant named Hagrid, and he finds out that he is a wizard. Soon after, he starts at Hogwarts, a wizarding school, where he makes some friends and finds out about his past. During his time at the school, he has to face many challenges, not least dealing with the knowledge that he stopped the most powerful dark wizard of all time. And then on to the key features. Child protagonist, tick. That is the same in all three. So that is a feature of all three. Orphan from before the story. That is the same in Spy Master. Not the same in Jaguar Trials, but the idea of parents not being around is still the same. Antagonist is an adult. Same in all three. Protagonist is looked after by a wise older character, just like in Spy Master, not the same as in Jaguar Trials. Protagonist has to overcome a series of obstacles/challenges, same in all of them, and there is a prophecy about the character. That's the same as in Jaguar Trials. So, when you've done that, when you've had your 3 books, you've thought out what the 3 books are, you've written your summary, you've written down the key features for each of those 3 books, you then can put them into a Venn diagram. So here is my Venn diagram. Needs 3 circles. You don't have to do it like this. If you just want to write down in columns what the similarities are, that's absolutely fine. I chose to do it as a Venn diagram. You don't have to. So I've got my 3 columns. I've got Jaguar Trials, Spy Master, and then Harry Potter. And then all you do is you put those features in. So for example, containing of magic, that's true in Jaguar Trials, that's true in Harry Potter. I didn't mention it in my features, but it is true in both of them. So that goes in the section where Jaguar Trials and Harry Potter overlap, but doesn't overlap with Spy Master. They're both, the main protagonist in the story is the subject of a prophecy. That's true in Jaguar Trials, it's true in Harry Potter, so it goes in that section. Then in the section between Harry Potter and Spy Master, where they overlap, both protagonists are is an orphan. Also, they have a wise mentor who helps guide them, helps teach them things. And then right in the center, that means it's true for all 3, contains child protagonist, contains an adult antagonist, and they have to face lots of challenges. I didn't complete my Venn diagram. There are lots of other things I could put in. There are things that are only true in Jaguar Trials, so that would go in the section for only Jaguar Trials. Lots of things that are only true for Spy Master. You can put things in there as well. But we're most interested in that middle section. That tells us what the similarities between all those books are. Now, we know that these 3 books were written for children. So maybe we can say authors choose carefully who their protagonists are based on their audience. A book written for a child will be more engaging if the protagonist is a child, because you can have similarities. You feel like you know a bit about what their life must be a bit like. You can associate with them. And having an adult as an antagonist, that makes sense too, because the one thing that kids always get fed up of and get fed up of hearing about and being told off by is adults. They get fed up of that. So having an adult as an antagonist, someone for these children to revolt against, someone who's under it, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, it's gone out of my head. Anyway, they're underestimated. Got it. They're being underestimated by these adults. So that might be a really important thing. And that's why we do this. We can start seeing why authors make certain choices, and it starts to make a bit more sense. And that can help us make choices in our own writing. When we know who we're writing for, we can tailor our writing to suit that audience. So that's what I'd like you to do today, please. I'd like you to choose 3 books that you have read. You don't have to have them at home. It just has to be 3 books that you've read. You need to write a short summary for each of those 3 books. You need to find the key features that were in that book, and then you need to find those key features that are true in all of the books, those similarities that are true for all 3 of your books, and ones that are also true for 2 of them, and so on. When you've done that, as ever, scan them in, take a picture, send them to me in some way. I'd love to see them. We've got Friday feedback show at the end of this week, so it would be lovely to show some of these bits of work. I'll be back with you tomorrow for Tuesday's tutorial, and then I'll be back with you on Wednesday for Wednesday's tutorial. Wednesdays goes across 2 days, so it's a Wednesday and Thursday tutorial, and then on Friday it's your reading aloud day. So there won't be a tutorial on Thursday or Friday. So only Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in terms of videos this week. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with you, well, if you're watching the Nowhere Emporium chapters, I'll be back with you later this afternoon. If you aren't, I'll be back with you tomorrow for tomorrow's tutorial. But for now, goodbye.